Okay, I'm getting ready to drop the lower unit here. I could hear some clanging noise in the lower end there. Plus I noticed the water was not coming out too well of the telltale. So, gonna get ready to drop it and see what surprises me. Also, as I'm going over this motor, I can see some of the jerry rigging the previous owner did here. Just putting some bare wires together, some electrical tape that is just wrapped up on wire and wire. Inside here you can see another wire is just electrical taped in there, so it's going to be interesting to find what's going on there when I pull that whole thing all out as well. So I pulled off the lower unit, and you can see it here. It's not looking too good. So here's the lower unit. Going to get the water pump housing pulled off here and see what I got. Okay, so now I'm going to pull this off and see what we got, and there you go. Impeller is bad. You can see pieces of rubber in there. It's cut up. And I dropped it and pulled off the water pump housing. Look what I found. Bits and pieces of metal. So that thrust bearing is toast. And actually, if you turn this cable here, you can hear the gears inside are not too good. But so anyways, well, this thing is also had a bunch of water in it. So obviously the seal was messed up. So ended up buying a new lower unit. So just waiting for that new one to get here and then I can install it. As for the motor, when I had it all hooked up and running, had about 115 for the compression. So that was really good. And still waiting for some parts to come in before I can start working back on this boat again. So hopefully next week start continuing to work on it. Well, I just got my new lower unit today. It's all wrapped up and ready to be unwrapped and installed onto the motor itself. So I'm pretty excited. This took about 2 weeks to get, but it's here. Here's my lower unit all installed. Here, going through, I've cleaned up the wires and got everything all nicely done here with heat shrink, so that way keep all the water out. And going through the power pack as well, checking out, make sure the connections are okay and where they should be. But found out here that one of the pins is missing, so gonna have to get a pin and put a pin in there to replace that and connect that back up. I'm pretty sure that's probably where one of the problems are that I'm having with this motor not running properly. So this is my new wire. They actually, the previous owner had a red wire on here, but this wire coming off of the stator was actually green. And so gonna have to check out the other side there as well and see what I got. Down here you can see that I've disconnected the VRO. Right now just kind of chopped off the hose and everything. Here got the coil packs and the spark plugs all hooked up, so when I get everything back together I can run it, see how it runs. You see some of the new wiring that I've got done. I had to take care of a lot of wiring back here that was just really Mickey Moused. Here I got the new telltale hose hooked up here. Gonna need to reroute this, so probably gonna have to chop off a couple inches as well to make sure it fits nicely underneath the cowling. So right now I'm still determining some of the work that needs to be done on this motor. So as I went to pull off one of the spark plugs, it kind of broke off here. Notice it was cracked, and then when I completely pulled it off, the whole entire coil pack broke in my hand. So time to replace it and get some new ones. Here I replaced the coil packs, came with some new spark plug wires as well. Also notice it was the wrong spark plugs in this motor as well, so replaced those. So new spark plug wires with new plugs, the correct ones that should be in here. This is the new power packs. I got I got 4 of them. Figured not gonna buy one, buy four, just get it all done so there's no other hidden gremlins anywhere. So I pulled off the carbs and rebuilt them because the motor was running like garbage. And I noticed while rebuilding them that none of the float needles had their clips. So replaced everything inside the carburetors, cleaned them out, made sure their clip was in there, and put everything back together. And I'm now having some problems with this motor not wanting to start. So I need to start doing a process of elimination to figure out if it is an electrical or is it a fuel problem. Give you a little update of what I've been doing here. So obviously these have all been replaced and I've been making sure I'm getting good spark. The spark tester had a problem with the stator. So obviously it looks like there's the original stator on here. So I have going to be replacing the stator here in a little bit. Kind of a pain in the ass to get the flywheel off, but able to get it off. The carbs have all been rebuilt, and also rebuilt the primer solenoid that had some issues as well. And then this here capped off the VRO with a nice cap instead of having the plug. And I checked the filter here, it's really good. I have a new one, but I'll be putting that on a little bit later. So overall everything's going good. Also replaced the spark plugs, got the actual ones that should be in there. So here's the new stator, all wired up and ready to go. So how I determined the stator was bad. First off, I was having a really hard time on starting the motor. It just wouldn't start. So one of my processes of elimination was I needed to check spark. The spark was good on all of the cylinders. I checked the timing base. It all was good, all within spec. I checked the stator. When I got to the stator, disconnected it here, put these wire clips on there, connected everything up to my multimeter, and what I did is I then switched it to 2000, and you can see what I'm getting there, 429. 429 is bad. The resistance on this stator should be 450 at its minimum. The range is 450 to 530, so this one was obviously bad. The next step was I needed to check the volts cranked over the engine, which is the cranking volts. The minimum that it needs is 175 is the specs for minimum crank. When I cranked it over, this was giving me 75 to 80 volts. So way off. It's bad. It's old. It's probably the original one that was on the motor when it was originally built back in '96. So one of those things that just needed to be replaced. So replaced it with a new one, and everything checks out and everything is within specs now. And still having a little bit of an issue with the motor starting, but after checking all the electrical and the ignition, it is all coming back working perfect. So I have a few more things I need to check out. I need to look at the fuel delivery and kind of go from there and try and figure out where this hidden gremlin is. So I had some starting issues with the boat. Wasn't getting fuel, so what I ended up doing and finding out was that it was this primer solenoid here. This guy had a lot of problems. Even though I replaced the cap, everything inside here, the gasket here, it didn't matter. This worked on the old one. This did a 360, and when I replaced it, I figured out why I was doing a 360, because right below this area here, there's a little notch that goes inside here where this will stop. It was broken. So I put the new one on. It still had fuel delivery problems. It just would not push gas. Gas would just not flow through these. So found out this was a problem. So bought a new one here. Got the new one. Right now it's just kind of jerry-rigged on here until I can figure out the correct way that this installs on the motor. But I wanted to get it all set up and make sure it works. So now it's working, and you can even feel the difference in here. The other thing that I can feel inside here is when turning this, you can feel the plunger moving. This old one, you couldn't feel anything. So now this one is all installed. I cranked over the motor. The motor runs pretty good. It just needs timing now, get the idle adjustment, and this motor is going to be running like a champ. I want to show you this little device here. This is pretty cool. Picked up for 10 bucks on Amazon. I didn't know if my tack was working on my boat, so to make sure that it was working, I bought one of these guys and hooked it up. You can see right there on the #1 cylinder, and when I crank over the motor, it's going to give me what my RPMs are.